This is we called it. Ken Call coming in hot.
Let me tell you, nothing was worse than trying to watch that Halloween Jets-Texans game last week. That was horrible. And I was like, I just need Houston to do a little bit of something. And Tank Dell looked great. And besides that, nothing. Oh, man, that was a horrible game to watch.
That was the worst game. The most exciting part is that the Jets didn't score a touchdown, right? Because the guy dropped the ball going in. Other than that, both teams in the first half were pitiful. I think Rodgers had 30 passing yards. And then, of course, the second half, I'm already asleep, and I missed Garrett Wilson being a boss and grabbing, pulling his best Odell.
Garrett Wilson, he's a baller. I love that Devontae Adams there, and he's like, no, thank you. I'm still the alpha. Aaron Rodgers agrees with him.
Giants versus Carolina. Or Panthers. I guess if I'm
9:30 a.m. in Germany. It's in Germany.
Let me tell you, we got an extra hour of sleep this weekend, and I was really annoyed that there wasn't a London game or something, because like by 11 o'clock, I had all my chores and everything done, and I'm just sitting there waiting for 2 hours. It would have been the perfect Sunday to have a 9:30 game. Instead, we get it this week.
You're the only one that misses the European games. I can tell you that.
Well, it's only on Daylight Savings Day, which, come on, it's one week out of the year. Can we line it up better?
Oh, man. These games just haven't been close.
What are you talking about? The Vikings barely beat the Jets, and then all the other games sucked, I think.
Most of them are usually one-sided. I'm sorry, I watched the Bears and the Jaguars, and that was horrible. But anyways, if I had to go anywhere with this, I'm leaning towards the Giants, mainly because I don't think that the Panthers can win 2 games in a row. I think that was, getting Dennis Allen fired is like them winning their Super Bowl. I tell you what, me and Phil have this, comment on who's winning this trade. I'm sending Phil Jonathan Brooks, and he's sending me Chuba Hubbard on the battle of we really just don't like our Carolina Panther running backs. But
dude, it's literally like we both assume that they're gonna suck. Just like their running backs, they're like Hubbard's going from like a standalone backfield to splitting it, and you're like, Jonathan Brooks doesn't have legs. Like this isn't gonna go well for anyone.
No, but the Giants defense plays well sometimes. Daniel Jones, oh my god, I hate backing Daniel Jones, period. But I like Tyrone Tracy on that team at least. Malik Neighbors looks all right, but it's in Germany. We're staying away from it.
So I am staying away from it, but man, I'm finding it harder to not believe in the Panthers, right? So in our preseason show, the total or the win total show, we all took Carolina to go over. They're at 2 wins now, and up and down, man. They played the Bengals to within a touchdown, I think. Maybe not. Maybe it was a different team. It seemed way too close for that Bengals game, is what I remember. And that was with Dalton. Bryce Young actually looked like a functioning quarterback in the NFL last week. He had the great comeback drive to put the Panthers up. And I don't buy the Giants. Like, Tyrone Tracy's a great running back, a really good running back. Malik Neighbors is an absolute stud. But they still have Daniel Jones, and I still think they're going to choke this one away. The strength of their defense is Dexter Lawrence in their interior pass rush, but Carolina's offense, like the strength of they put all their money into guard center guard, so it'll be less valuable for them. 5.5 just seems like so much. I'm not touching it, but like it just. I don't believe in the Giants to be that good of a football team. They seem like that team that will constantly keep it like within 3 either way. They don't seem like the team that will light it up and I guess win by a touchdown. But anyways, I don't believe in myself that much for those comments. And also in Germany, anything can happen. So I'm staying away. We'll go over to the next game. The rookie QBs who are expected to go 1-2 this year before Jaden Daniels had an awesome college Heisman year. We have Drake May, and
good job.
Drake May versus Caleb Williams. Bears are 6-point home favorites, and the total is 39.5. Drake May is coming off a miracle game where he saved our New England bet with that touchdown was absolutely insane. He was just looking for anything and then flicked it up, and Ramondre showed up and caught it. And the Bears are coming off a game where they really want to forget. Really embarrassing loss to the Cardinals. So what do you think? Any thoughts?
Honestly, I was super surprised about how bad that Bears defense looked against just like a very plain run game. And we're talking, James Conner and whatever his first name is, DeMarcado, just like completely. Trey Benson was, fine. They were all very like, I don't know, average, and they completely like ran over the Bears. I had Kyler Murray in fantasy, and it was, I mean, he just didn't have to pass. I mean, 29-9, and he I think had like 150 pass yards maybe, but I was very surprised there. But I am excited to see this matchup of these rookies. I mean, both of which have flashed different ways this year. They're obviously like parts of it are just general disappointment. I mean, the Patriots just lost to the Titans, and Caleb Williams, has thrown 4 touchdowns, and he also like barely gets 4 completions next game. So I think it's kind of interesting to watch. I think can kind of go, nothing would surprise me from this game. I'm staying away. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game, but I'm hoping that these quarterbacks continue to show a little bit.
So I think Drake May has looked absolutely fantastic given the situation. He does not have a single receiver that should be like above a wide receiver 3 on a real team's depth chart. Like Demario Douglas he seems like a nice slot to have if you have like a good X and a deep threat. But that's just not the case. So, excuse me. But yeah, New England, their offense is a joke. I mean, Drake May is doing everything he can. He reminds me of like Justin Fields, not in the fact that he's a hyper athlete, but he's doing nothing, and he's like playing well enough by running the ball, which is ridiculous for him. He didn't, obviously not a freak athlete coming into the NFL. Made a couple mistakes down the stretch, but it's so funny because like given his situation, you see him and you're like, yeah, that guy can play NFL football. And then you look at Caleb Williams, and like on a relative situation basis, you're like, that guy has all the weapons. Offensive line's been rough, but it's like, why can't this work for you in Chicago? Why aren't you showing more? It seems like every time he takes one step forward, the next week it's 2 steps back. -6 for them, and the total at 39.5. Both seem aggressive to me, where New England should maybe be the play at +6, and the over at 39.5. But again, this is another one that I would stay away from because New England's a wild card you can't trust, and when you have 2 rookie quarterbacks playing like facing off, you can get interceptions that lead to touchdowns or interceptions that lead to short fields that quickly lead to points. So, I wish I had a stronger opinion. I'm mostly just excited to see what this game turns into. But I have a feeling it will be a lot like last week, where I didn't want to watch Arizona versus Chicago, and I think I guess neither of us did, and we were both right in that, where it was not a great game to turn on. There was a few big plays early, and then just coasting. So we will move on to the next one: Minnesota versus Jacksonville. Jacksonville's a 4-point home dog, and the total's at 47. What do you think?
I can't get a good read on either of these teams. I don't know, like Minnesota. I just haven't been like super impressed with their offense the last like couple weeks. I mean, I was kind of waiting for them to like really like break away from Indy, and it's just sort of an ugly game. Sometimes it looks good when they throw to Justin Jefferson because of course Hawkinson came back. Aaron Jones looks good. I just I think I was texting you where I was like, I still feel like they're just hiding like Sam Darnold back there, where like they'll do good, they'll move the ball, and then they just get stopped, and like I mean they go ice cold for like 3-4 drives in a row, and I mean their defense has just continued to just look fantastic, being very aggressive. And same thing with like Trevor Lawrence. I mean, it's just a big question mark. Like, I mean, some people are like, oh, he played awful. And then other ones are like, yeah. And he was also one throw away from, coming back and beating Philadelphia last week. I have no idea what happened with Brian Thomas. I'm seeing all these reports where he's like out 2 to 4 weeks, and all of a sudden they're like, nah, just kidding. It was like 2 days. And he looked fine. So, he's still back there. They have ETN, they have Tank Bigsby. I mean, there's weapons on that offense. I just don't know which offense from Jacksonville you're going to get. You're going to, are you getting this one where this easily could go over this 47, or are you getting this one where they can barely, put together 2 drives? So big, I don't know. I'm staying away from it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I wish like the only angles I like to take with Minnesota now is knowing that their defense is going to be aggressive, and whether it's going to work against the opposing team. Last week, I thought them blitzing like crazy would be a benefit to Flacco, who loves just to chuck it, right? If someone's blitzing a whole lot, then there's less men in coverage. And if your quarterback's just throwing it up, it's 50-50 balls, so interceptions or long completions. It did not end that way. I think I sent it to you, though, where it was like, that game should have hit the over. A lot of missed field goals, fumbles, like in opponent territory. So just definitely a disappointment there. For both of us, because we both had the over. But yeah, you're right. The Vikings, Kevin O'Connell is a great first half coach. We even saw it like last year with Kirk Cousins. But then they just slow down and start running the ball for 3 yards a carry and not doing anything, and punting way too much, giving the other team too many opportunities to come back. So I'm staying away because Jacksonville, they were down 22-0 and nearly won that game. I have no idea how. But I have a friend who lives in Philadelphia. He's like, dude, I had no fear at all. I'm like, are you sure? Trevor Lawrence had the ball at like the 30-yard line late in that game, and he chucked it right to the defense. But like, I would have been a little bit nervous if I was you after seeing my team completely collapse. And I'm with you. I wish Jacksonville could just regularly show up and put together full games, like they did. What were they, 8-1 last year at one point, or 8-2? In that stretch, their offense, regularly looked functional and productive. That's all gone. Doug Peterson's definitely going to be out at the end of the year. So I don't know. I'm kind of scared about about Trevor Lawrence just in general right now. After being better than Andrew Luck, or as good as Andrew Luck, or whatever it was, he is not looking at all like a AFC, top end quarterback. I think if he went to the NFC, he could. But yeah, it's just looking rough for Jacksonville right now.
No, it doesn't look like he's worth that contract right now. And trust me, we're from Cleveland. We know about not being worth a contract.
However, I would still, if I could, trade Deshaun Watson and an additional $250 million to get Trevor Lawrence.
I think that goes without saying.
Anyways, all right, let's go on to the next game. Our first game on Sunday with a pick. I have Washington as a 3-point favorite versus Pittsburgh, and the total at 45.5. I'll give you a little glimpse into what I'm thinking here, and it's just that Pittsburgh is not that good. They are 6-2. They've had an easy schedule. Washington is legit. Jaden Daniels has not been as good as we have seen, but regularly they are moving the ball on offense into opponent territory. And defensively, they just got Marshawn Lattimore. I think Marshawn Lattimore is the guy who that came in his rookie year and like held opponents to under a 10 passer rating if their name wasn't Mike Evans. That's not the case right now, but he is still a Pro Bowl caliber corner that will give a huge boost to a coverage unit that desperately needed it. Dan Quinn has saved this defense, and I can't buy Pittsburgh. That's the bottom line. I don't think Russ is that great. I don't think their running game is as good as it has been. The hope here is that their defense can continue to dominate, and I think Washington is put themselves in that top class in the NFC, like next to San Fran in terms of caliber. But for now, I am just all out on Pittsburgh. What do you think?
So, I mean, I think Russ has looked a little better than you're giving him credit for.
He has absolutely looked way better than he did in Denver. I'll give you that.
I know that Mike Williams is still, old and getting off of injuries. But he is him and George Pickens, just from the trade deadline. I mean, that is a really good combo for Russ. The big difference is with this Pittsburgh offense is they've been getting chunk plays with Russ. I mean, you have that downfield threat. He's hit Calvin Austin. He's hit George Pickens. Mike Williams is, not new to a deep ball, but I like them. Najee Harris looked like a real running back a few plays a game, which is certainly new for him. But I was seeing that he's the first quarterback since Roethlisberger to have over 400 yards of total offense games for Pittsburgh in the same season, which is just nuts. I mean, the fact that they just haven't been able to move the ball at all. But this Washington defense has been really, really good at home. And I know they haven't played too many great people at home, but I mean, their defense is improving, which is really impressive. Because you look at all the people they got rid of last year from this, the defense at the beginning of the year last year for them. But I kind of want to take the over on this game just because Pittsburgh's been playing a little bit of like over ball since Russ, and I think we are kind of like overrating the Pittsburgh defense a little bit. That -3, yes, I think Pittsburgh's won too many like close games. I think that they're both these teams have a overinflated record, but I think Pittsburgh just a little bit more. But I'm going to go over the 45.5 here.
All right. So listen, I think Russ caught the Jets like off guard because they changed their offense and they definitely threw over the top on the Jets. I don't think the Giants are a good football team. I think I've emphasized that pretty much every time we're here talking. And so I think it's going to be harder for the Steelers now that people know what they want to do to, continually recreate this success. Especially, I think, like I said, I think Dan Quinn's been a phenomenal defensive play caller for the Commanders, who I think had like a bottom 10 personnel coming into the year, but have somehow played, to above average, that 10 to 16 range on defense. And yeah, I'm not buying Pittsburgh to the point where my recommendation right now is to bet them not to make the playoffs. That's really bold. It's a
what's their record? Isn't it 6-2?
It's 6-2. They're plus 300 to not make the playoffs. And the reason is their ending schedule, I think, is really tough. And they have a lot of bad matchups for them.
Dude, they play the Browns twice.
So I think the Browns will win one just because it's a divisional game. So listen, they played the Browns, the Ravens, and the Bengals twice. I think they go 2-4 in those games. And then they have the Commanders, the Eagles, the Chiefs. Like, I do not see.
It's pretty rough.
That is, what's that? That's 9 games remaining. I guess in my mind, they have to go, 3-6 to not make the playoffs. And that's even at 9-8. You have a bad tiebreak. But that's also because I kind of want the Bengals to make the playoffs because I think they're way more fun to watch. So in here, the Bengals beat them twice and make the playoffs. So just a heads up on where my mind is. I
don't think that. I think for them to miss it, they got to go 1-5 in the division, which isn't ridiculous. I mean, they got to play the Ravens twice, they got to play Cincy twice, and then Cleveland twice.
Yeah, so they're definitely 0-2 versus Cleveland, 0-2 versus the Ravens. They split versus the Bengals.
Almost.
But no, I'm not gonna lie. I don't see them. All right, hot take. I don't see them beating the Commanders. I don't see them beating the Eagles at this moment. For the record, that game is more of a coin flip than any of these other takes. But then I don't see them beating the Chiefs. Except the only reason they can beat the Chiefs is if the Chiefs are 14-1 when they play them on Christmas, and the Chiefs are like, you know what, we're just going to coast a little.
So how good do you think Washington is? I mean, like I said, their defense is improving. That's why I'm a little timid on the 45.5. It's not It's not necessarily the Washington offense versus Pittsburgh, but the other way around. But I mean, they're 7-2. You have them, wiping the floor with Pittsburgh this week, and you're like, oh, it's not even close. And they got to play the Eagles twice still.
Whoa, not even close is different than -3 at home for the Commanders.
Okay.
So for the record, I think in the NFC it goes right now. Lions are the best team. San Fran's the second best. Commanders are the third. But that is like, they're a top 6 or 7 team in the NFL. So that's
pretty huge for this team. Wow.
So I was gonna say, so you have 2 teams better than them in the NFC. I would give you the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, and then you're talking, are they better than the Texans? Steelers?
You think everyone's better than the Texans, man?
I do.
Jets? Where are you with the Jets, Phil?
If the Texans played the Steelers, I think I would just I would be arguing with myself over who's going to lose that game more.
It's gonna tie, and they're just gonna give them both 2 L's instead.
It's so funny because analytically the Steelers are actually really good, but I just think Cupcake's scheduled to start, and it's gonna come back to get them. So, this team lost to the Colts, and I think that was the Anthony Richardson Colts. Is that right?
No, Flacco went in after the first drive. Yeah,
that's right. Flacco came in.
Yeah, no, Flacco folded them, man. It was a great game to watch. I loved it.
Yeah, they lost to the Cowboys, though. How about that? That's all you need to know. All right. Yeah, so leaving it there, Washington -3. Next up, Buffalo versus Indy. I have Buffalo -4. And that is Buffalo beats down bad teams nonstop. It's all they do. And let me tell you, Joe Flacco, love him. Makes games a lot of fun. Doesn't show up to this kind of game. He will beat the Ravens. He will play San Fran tight. But when you have a team that can put pressure on and knows how to play with a lead and just stomp a team's throat and win 30-10, I don't know how Sean McDermott does it. He's one of the best in the NFL at it as a head coach. Guy sucks at situational coaching, winning games that are within 4 points. But when it comes to beating down a team that he should beat down, that's what they do. So Buffalo -4. They are going to run right through Indy.
It pains me to say this, but if you saw me sneaking the pick onto the board as you were talking, it's just true. So Indy's defense has been so average, and Buffalo's offense is just peaking. I mean, it was just Josh Allen carrying them for a lot of the year, playing turnover free ball, but Keon Williams looks great. Khalil Shakir looks good. Dalton Kincaid's, he's a safety blank, and they're getting. I don't know if Amari Cooper is going to be playing or not this week, but they have him coming into the offense. James White looks good. Ray Davis looks good. They are just completely looking good. And this Colts defense is a classic. They're just it's so plain. There's not a ton of blitzing, not a ton of movement, not a lot of pre-snap changes, and it just Josh Allen's gonna run right over it. And Flacco, even if you get the good Flacco, I think you're just getting more points and you're getting a nice easy over. But I still think this one could be easily a 34-20 game. So worst case scenario is Flacco tries too much and throws 2 picks and one of them goes the other way. Who knows? But I'd like the Indy offense better with Flacco. I think that in the short term, he is the better quarterback than Anthony Richardson. And I don't think that matters much against the Bills because the Bills are in playoff mode and they eat teams like Indy right now.
Yeah, we just agree on that one.
I completely missed it. I had that one circled as had as the best bet type.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. Well,
and
you copied off
one
my
later.
spreadsheet. That's
I
all I know.
did. No, I did. I did that for this one. I'll admit it when I do it.
I won't. It's all about pride for me. Denver versus Kansas City's up next. So Denver, in a battle of the 5-3 teams, got steamrolled and put in their place by Baltimore. We chickened out on taking Baltimore minus 8.5. I kind of regret it now. But we all saw why Baltimore was heavy favorites in that game. And apparently should have been more. Now they get another chance to prove if they are legit as they take on the Chiefs. And the Chiefs, man, they love to win terribly close games. So that means this minus 8.5 point spread, that's rough. And the total is 41.5. You have Denver plus 8.5. I might be hopping on. Before you go, I'm just going to remind everyone, I think Denver was 1-1 last year or 2-0 against the Chiefs. Either way, they covered both those games and they played them like down to the wire, despite being the Denver of last year.
So, it's kind of funny because Denver kind of plays like a LA Charger light type of ball where it's like, hey, our defense is good. And, if you watch a KC Tampa Bay game, first off, Tampa Bay's pass rush got to Mahomes a lot. And that's surprising because that Tampa Bay defense sucks. I mean, that was the first game where they really did like anything. And this Denver defense has been very admirable this year. And they've really hidden the fact that the Denver offense is like one of the worst to watch. I'm sorry, I know Bo Nix has been doing better and he's thrown for more yards and Cortland Sutton's looking a little better. And I don't care because they, you just see so much like, so much bad. And like, I just think that you're going to get, this is a game where I don't, especially if you're betting Denver, don't watch it. You're not going to like what you see, but at the end, I think you see a game where it's within one score. And Denver's offense all year has done just enough. And that's with, Bo Nix running for, 60 yards some games. I'm positive he's like leading the team in rushing touchdowns. Like, and it's just ugly. But I think that that KC game against Tampa just really made them look really good because they're playing a team that didn't have much defense, and it was a good tune-up for a team where DeAndre Hopkins looked good, and they're trying to find a new sort of passing game with all the injuries. But Kareem Hunt, Jesus, he looked like Kareem Hunt from like 3 years ago out there. But they're not going to be able to do that against Denver.
Yeah, so Bo Nix has 8 passing touchdowns and 5 non-passing touchdowns because he caught one against Did he catch one? It was the Ravens, right?
Yeah,
that's when they ran the Philly special. The only way they scored is off trickery. But yeah, I don't know. Sean Payton, credit to him for knowing how to play KC and sticking it to him last year and potentially this year. We'll see if I find something else I like, because I always like to have an odd number of picks. I'll loop back and grab this one. But it's just so hard to be like, Denver, you're a real like they're 5-4. I didn't think they were going to win 5 games this year. Or maybe I thought they were going to win 5 total. So they still might. Like I could actually see them being the team. Who was it? There's been a few teams like that, like the Browns when they were 7-9 or 7-3 at one point a few years ago. They ended 7-9 because it was one of the first years that they were going to be able to go at least 500, and we were all excited, and it didn't happen. I could see the Broncos doing something similar. They just completely collapse because they don't have the talent. Anyways, so I'll think about putting that on the board.
I will say just one note with the whole Sean Payton thing, and yes, he quit on Russ super early after trading for him and investing a lot. But unpopular opinion, but I liked the whole like, hey, guess what? You're not our guy. We're moving on. Yes, it's a big hit to the cap. It's a big hit with the draft picks, but you just got to move on when it's not the guy sometime. And
dude, the Browns.
Yes, this is coming from a Browns fan, and I will tell you,
the Browns are in a bye.
If it's not your guy,
we can't even jump to them right now because they're not on this week's set of games. But let me tell you, man, if after the Giants game, Jameis had gone in, I think the Browns could be 3 or 4 win team right now. Now it's too late, obviously, and the team's the season's over. But it's like they could have actually been like a real. They would have at least one more win with Jameis, but we don't.
But like for example, for Indy, I think right now Flacco's a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson. He gives them the better chance to win on a like week in, week out right now. And it's really deflating to guys when they're like teams trying hard and quarterback's just not working. And, they all know it, the coach isn't saying it, but it's the whole, we're sticking with this guy because he's our investment. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I'm glad that everybody out there is trying super hard and, it's just a morale boost or it's just super deflating that this dude sucks and we're going to stick with him. And I'm just really, I like to see teams that, it's ballsy to move on from, Bryce Young super early and to, bench Anthony Richardson right now, but they did it.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I want everyone to remember Deshaun Watson was famous for probably being the best version of what Joe Flacco, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Jameis Winston were. Where it is, the guy didn't play in a system, didn't play well. He didn't throw to open receivers. He chucked it to and made plays down the field, right? Not what he does anymore, which is just mind blowing. And that's what
you're
makes
the one that keeps bringing Deshaun Watson up. I don't know why.
I'm just mentioning that we were on we talked. This is all control. We brought up the Browns and started going down this path, and that's what's so frustrating about him though. That's why it's like when you talk about these high variance players, Deshaun Watson was that. All right, there you go. Browns. I guess timeout and vent out of the way. Next up, Atlanta versus New Orleans. So Dennis Allen is now gone. That's what happens when the Panthers, who don't look like a football team for multiple weeks in a row, beat you. So Saints are 3.5-point home underdogs against Atlanta, and the total's 46.5. Now, I told you it looks like Olave is going to be out after Derek Carr nearly got him killed with just an extremely risky throw. Now I want to take New Orleans so bad with that, that sudden rush of we have a new coach, so teams galvanized or something. But I just can't do it. Atlanta has been coming out and just playing the classic, they remind me of the Vikings. This is the perfect example. The Vikings from a few years ago with Kirk Cousins, where they had a negative point differential, but they were 8-1. And Atlanta right now is 6-3 with a +5 point differential. So I can't take them to win a game by less than 3 points on the road. So, or, by more than 3 points on the road. So I'm staying away, but it just seems like a prime spot for the Saints to be rah, get around. We aren't that bad of a team. We need to make sure we keep our jobs next year for the most part. And pull off the cover. Maybe not the win, but the cover.
So, Drake London, he had a hip injury. Hip injuries are always unspecified, and a lot of it comes down to pain tolerance. It's more of a hip pointer. It's not a severe hip, a hip dislocations. What Tua had way back when, that. Now those are severe injuries. Obviously, it's not that, but I don't think that Drake London's playing this week. He got one on his touchdown pass last week. A real just drain on my fantasy team. They went out so early, but this Atlanta team, it's one of the things where I just don't really care too much that he's out. I mean, they've made a lot with, they have talent. They have Kyle Pitts still. They have Bijan. Darnell Mooney's looked really good. Ray McLeod's, been very serviceable. And I don't think that one matters as much. If they didn't just fire Dennis Allen, I would pick Atlanta. But it's very motivating for a team. Both of them, have their star receivers out, and it's just with it being that NFC South showdown. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna pass. I would lean towards the Saints, but I'm out.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Darnell Mooney could have a big game. because Marshawn Lattimore is gone, which means no New Orleans receivers. I also think I had Mason Tipton as one of my guys who could like bust out a 60-yard touchdown. Didn't do it, but over 3 on targets. I think he's the guy also that could have a big game here. Moving on. San Fran versus Tampa Bay. You and I agree. Off a bye week, Kyle Shanahan is going to come in and beat the Baker Mayfields. San Fran's -5.5 on the road. The total's 51. Is Shanahan on the bye your motivating factor? Or is there anything else?
Oh, it's everything. This is the perfect storm, man. This is right up there with that Buffalo like best pick of the week, because yes, Shanahan off a bye, Tampa Bay off of a heartbreaking Monday night. They put everything, into that game, come out with a loss. They're injured. And oh, by the way, Christian McCaffrey's back. This team that's been, Debo getting pneumonia, Kittle's been in and out, hurt. Same thing with Juwan Jennings. This is their full power. Sorry, Brandon Ayuk, but when you're missing Brandon Ayuk but you do have McCaffrey, Kittle, and Debo, it's okay. I'm biased. I like Juwan Jennings. I think he's good. Ricky Pearsall, he's flashed a little bit. There's a lot of weapons, and they are all at Kyle Shanahan's disposal against a defense that just hasn't been that great. They showed up a little bit more against KC, but KC's offense hasn't looked fantastic this year. This one has so much more firepower than what they had, what they were going against Monday. I think that this one, if you believe in Baker, bet the over. If you really want, I think this is a statement game for the 49ers, who've been playing 500 ball despite what I think is one of the most talented rosters in the NFL.
Yeah, I think you always see if you're on Twitter and you follow the analytics people like I do. So maybe no one else sees it, and I'm the only one out there. But you see all of these posts nonstop that are like, how good is the team on offense? How good is the team on defense? And then you plot them. And San Fran is consistently one of the best teams, and it's just Kyle Shanahan has coached them out of wins. And I love Kyle Shanahan. You and I both do. But he is really not a great fourth quarter coach. Like, I don't know how it happens. He can coach a team to make plays, but for whatever reason, situational football, plus or minus 7 points, it's just not there. And that's not going to be this case, so it doesn't matter. So Christian McCaffrey is going to be back. I don't care if he's on a snap count, whatever it is, he's going to show some pop. He's going to get a touchdown. And then Tampa, you're right. They played well against Kansas City, but then again, everyone plays well like that against Kansas City. You can't say, you played them within a touchdown, because the Raiders played them within a touchdown too. So I think
that was a different touchdown.
But San Fran is now in a heated division, and they know it, right? They are right in the thick of a division that Cardinals lead at 5-4, Rams are tied with them at 4-4, and then Seahawks are right behind at 4-5. So they got to step up their game. They've got to start, converting those the good games into wins, instead of just being like, oh, I don't know how we blew it against the Rams. I don't know how we blew it against the Cardinals. It's time to start getting some W's. And Bucks, Seahawks is two good spots right before they got a tough stretch after that. They go to Green Bay, and then they go to Buffalo. So when you need to have off a bye, San Fran is going to gob-stomp that one. So let's go. Next up, Tennessee versus...
Gob-stomp. I love it.
I don't even know if that's a word. I'm pretty sure gobsmacked is a word, so it's kind of mixing it up.
Think of the old candies, gobstoppers. So you're good. You're good.
I might just be hungry. That's what we got to do. Instead of picks of the week, we got our gobstomps of the week. All right, Tennessee versus the Titans versus the Chargers. Tennessee just almost blew the game the Patriots handed them the game, and then they nearly blew it. And the Chargers are coming off it was a dominant win against the Browns, but it seemed like in the second half, neither of the teams wanted to be there. It's like they were both trying to like get off the field and go home. But now the Chargers are 7.5-point home favorites, and the total is 38. Thoughts on the game?
So the Chargers are the exact opposite of the Chargers last year, where they were Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, like Herbert was doing these like fancy plays, looked cool doing it, like just showed off an arm, and then they lost a bunch of games. Their defense, a bunch of big names, and they just didn't have it all together. And they are turning into the most boring team that just wins in the NFL. This has nothing to do with the fact that they beat the Browns. It's that they do this to every team where they just play this slow, bored, like boring game. Like we said it last week. Like J.K. Dobbins has not been super impressive. They just keep giving him the ball. He had like a breakout run at the end of last game that really like padded the stats. But I mean, it's been nothing fancy from them, and they just wait for other teams to make mistakes. And Tennessee just came from a team that let them make all the mistakes, and it didn't matter. No, this Tennessee coming off a win, it's not happening. I mean, I don't hate the 7.5 for the Chargers, but I'm definitely leaning more towards them just winning the game. This is one of my, don't follow me teases that I'm going to put in. Also, the Chargers have yet to play a game that went over 38 or over 40, which is nuts. And this one's right at 38. Could this be the one that goes over? No. I'm just completely staying away from that over under, but I am leaning towards the Chargers.
So this is the craziest thing I've seen. The Titans allow the fewest yards per drive of any team in the NFL, but they allow the 20th most points per drive, which to me just screams like their offense is turning the ball over and putting them in bad situations. So they're giving up field goals or like short field touchdowns.
Probably.
It's so funny because I don't pay attention to them. I'm not going to lie. I have a busy life, and the Titans aren't fun to watch. So the Chargers aren't fun to watch either. This is one of those games that, it's just going to be miserable for anyone. So I don't have a strong take on it. I wish I could say take the Chargers, but the Chargers, I can't bet on a team that puts up 20 points a game to win by 7.5. It doesn't make sense. And then the Titans, I can't trust them to put up 10 points in a game. So not going to watch. I'm not going to pay attention. I'm just going to pretend this game doesn't exist and move on with my life.
Tease it down to 1.5. And once again, put it right up there with the Denver KC game on the don't watch list.
All right. So next up, my New York Jets taking on the Cardinals. Jets are 1-point road underdogs, and the total's 46. So I am hopping on the Aaron Rodgers bandwagon once more and saying, give me the Jets to essentially win this game. +1 for the most part comes down to, are you going to win or lose? And the Cardinals, man, I have been very unimpressed with everything they have done. Marvin Harrison has been a massive letdown, if you ask anyone in fantasy, and right, that thought is correct. The Cardinals offense in general, which probably is due to them not having the wide receiver one they thought they were going to have. Trey McBride has been nice. James Conner has been nice. But I don't know. They just have not provided the pop I've wanted to see, despite beating the Bears 29-9 and having a great comeback against the Dolphins. I don't know, man. The Jets, they finally put it together last week, too. They got Garrett Wilson involved. They got Devontae Adams involved. Aaron Rodgers was actually hitting the throws in the second half.
In the second half, you're just talking about one half of football. They only had 60 yards in the first half.
Yeah, I'm buying that the Cardinals' defense is bad enough that Garrett Wilson or Devontae Adams will have a field day because they don't have the personnel to stop them. So I just think this is a game where the Cardinals are outmatched. Their offense versus the Jets defense, in my opinion, like in terms of talent, kind of is a wash. And then the Cardinals, they're a year or two away of good draft picks to refresh this team and get them a capable defense. I just think Aaron Rodgers with those two receivers is still too good, even if it is just for a half. They'll come out and they'll win. I mentioned the Steelers not to make the playoffs. If you believe in this, Jets plus 300 to make the playoffs.
You can't have the Jets and the Bengals make the playoffs, man.
Yeah, it's a want. It's just a want, man. Like there's like points.
One's 3-6, and the other one's like what, 4-5.
Yeah, But they don't play each other. They don't play each other. Now listen. That means I have the Chargers and the Broncos falling out of the. Oh no, I have the Broncos and the Steelers falling out of the playoffs. That's how I have it. Do I think that's real? Probably, realistically no. But come on, it's so much more fun than I don't want to see Russell Wilson get beat by Russell Wilson versus Justin Herbert. That would the Steelers versus the Chargers would be such a bad game to start off. Like,
that's going to be like a round one game. Like, we're getting that somewhere in the playoffs.
Yeah, right now it's Bills versus Broncos, Steelers versus Chargers, and Texans versus Ravens. Like, I don't want to watch any of those football games.
I got to tell you, man, the Texans, they've been such a letdown where, like, they should be so exciting to watch. And then Diggs gets hurt and Nico Collins, and then, like, Stroud's like, I can't remember how to do this.
Speaking of teams with wins and bad point differentials, 6-3 plus 1 point differential. So, anyways, that's my take on why I want the Jets. What are you thinking?
It is. I mean, the weakness for the Cardinals has been their secondary, and that's all the Jets have done. The Jets have just been like, Aaron Rodgers, we're giving you everything you could possibly have to have a good pass game, and one of their best things they've been doing is just dumping the ball off to Breece Hall. I don't know why they can't run the ball this year. It's just been like, it's fine. Our runs are little dump passes to Breece Hall where he runs for 40 yards. But it's a good matchup for him. I mean, Kyler Murray, he's like a week and a half out of Call of Duty coming out. So I think that's kind of, a little, that part's a little better for him. But I just don't know what Arizona team we're getting. Are we getting this one where like this like offense stomps like the Bears that have a very good defense, or are we getting the team that's gonna lose by 30? I just don't know. And like you said, I'm just not impressed with this Arizona offense so far. I just don't think that they've been able to put it together for consecutive games, and I think that continues. I'm gonna lean the Jets. It's just, I mean, I don't know. It's just a toss up for like a road team. I'm just staying out of it.
Yeah, it's fair. Like I have an unreasonable amount of faith in that team. I don't know why, but like I said, I think it's just a want. It's because I want to see a playoff game. It's never gonna happen. That would be like Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson against the Ravens, who can't pass cover. That would be a great game.
But like Mahomes,
game, I mean it'd be at least exciting to turn on for the first quarter.
Yeah, you want Mahomes, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, and Joe Burrow in the playoffs. I get it, and Lamar. Like, I mean, that's awesome. Like,
yeah, you know what it really is. Deep down, I have Garrett Wilson, and I need him to keep doing well in fantasy. He's the wide receiver number 3 on the year, and I would never believe anyone if they told me based on like some of the games he's had. He's been so bad. But anyways, so next up we have Philly versus Dallas. Dallas just lost Dak Prescott. They are 7.5 point home underdogs, and the total is 42. We both have the total in this one over 42. I'll let you go first.
I think this is going to be an ugly game. By ugly, I mean, so Cooper Rush will be in there. I think that he's not going to make mistake-free football. I think that without Dak, I don't think they'll be able to run the ball. Rico Dowdle has looked really good recently. But I think that this Eagles team that, couldn't stop, anything early in the season, their defense is looking so much better. I think that you're going to see some mistakes from Dallas. I think you're going to see Saquon keep running. Jalen Hurts is kind of looking good, and then I think that Cooper Rush is good enough to where you're going to get some junk time. I don't. Have you seen any updates on CD?
I have not seen anything on CD. I'll check it right now.
So I heard he was week to week, and only thing is if they like just keep him out, then that sucks. But I don't
the drawbacks of recording on Tuesday when teams aren't really practicing.
So we'll see. I mean, especially if Dak's not in. I mean, I could see them just being like, "Forget it," we'll regroup next week. But I do think Cooper Rush is good enough to get some junk time points in there, and I just think that 7.5 is too big. I'm leaning towards Philly, but that 7.5 is just a huge number. I do think that just between good field position, some sloppy ball, and junk time, we're getting over 42.
Yeah, so I think Philly will be dominating this game at some point. Philly first half probably is going to be like -4.5, and I think that's a solid one to take. But we don't do that here because we only talk about totals and spreads, full game. But Dallas, Cooper Rush actually looked like a plausible quarterback last week when he stepped in garbage time. I know it was garbage time. He fed Kevontae Turbin, who I had 60-plus yards on, but he didn't play the whole game until the end and got 36. Should have played him more and gave him more passes. Anyways, I do think Cooper Rush is different enough from Dak that he will provide value in his first start. But it's one of those things where it's like once you realize he's a backup quarterback in 2 weeks, he'll be useless. It's a rivalry game. It's in Dallas. I can see Dallas. Michael Parsons might be coming back too. Getting up for it and trying to, make a last stand for their season, despite being 3-5 and in a really good conference in terms of wins. And it's a far uphill battle to make the playoffs. But it just, like I said, 7.5 is too much for Cooper Rush, who is a fine backup on his first start. They just traded for Jonathan Mingo. If you want to talk about news that wasn't news at all, trading for Jonathan Mingo was it. I don't know why they gave up a 4th-round pick for him. He is not like the guy was a 2nd-round pick 3 years ago and hasn't proved anything and continues. And they get a 4th-round pick. It's like inverse Moneyball. Anyways,
dude, what did Deontay Johnson go for?
I don't. Second.
I think it was it a second? I thought it was like a 5th. But
let me see Deontay Johnson trade. Don't worry, I can always cut these little awkward pauses. You're right, the team traded wide receiver Deontay Johnson and a 6th-round pick to the Ravens for a 5th-round pick.
I get he's just a rental.
He came off the same team. Carolina.
But Deontay Johnson's just a good player. That's the difference. Like one of those is a good football player.
Oh my god. He has a bigger contract or something like that. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. That
it doesn't matter. He's good. He's valuable, actually. I don't know. I hope Jonathan Mingo does good. I think it'd be funny.
He's not gonna do anything this week. This week it's gonna be Tolbert.
Oh no,
and Turpin and whoever else they get to walk on the field. But I don't know. Philly's defense has not really impressed me recently, I think. I guess they did play pretty well against the Bengals, but you gave up 20. They didn't even give up 23 to Jacksonville, huh? Jacksonville had like 2 defensive scores. Oh man, maybe I'm talking myself out of this one. The more I think. I'm not changing my opinion though. It's on here. It's recorded.
Don't do it.
Over 42. Divisional game. Cooper Rush is underrated. The one game he played in like 2 years ago, he threw for 300 yards though, I think. Started against Minnesota. Because I took Minnesota in that game thinking a backup would be bad. Anyways, the things you remember. Detroit versus Houston is the Sunday night game. We have Houston as 3.5-point home underdogs. Totals 49. You and I don't have any picks on this game. But Nico Collins is coming back. And Detroit is out here. There's something ridiculous like Detroit has more touchdowns than incompletions or something recently. I can't even remember.
Jared Goff has thrown for more touchdowns than incompletions in the last like 3 games,
Which
something
is
like that.
completely ridiculous, and it counts the game where he didn't even need to show up. They could have run the ball every time against the Titans and still scored 40.
Yeah, pretty much did.
Yeah. He threw for like 85 yards when they had 40 points. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyways, thoughts on this one?
They've been covering like crazy. I think in the since Dan Campbell's been there, I don't know what it is, but I think they're like 60 or 65% covering just in general. And I think we might be dumb for not have him do this. We just are giving so much credit to Nico Collins coming back off a hamstring injury that if he goes out in the first drive, with a recurrence, then here, this game will be ridiculous. But I mean, even like if you think that like the over 49 isn't horrible, but I mean, I don't know how Houston sticks around with them. It's just sometimes Detroit likes to, like play with their food. And I don't think that they'll just be able to run the ball with Joe Mixon. But, coming off of like a real big, like Detroit Lions win, like crappy weather in Lambeau against Jordan Love coming back. I think that we can just see a little bit of the decreased intensity. Saying the decreased intensity from Dan Campbell's team sounds dumb, but I think just like a little like a toned down game. I don't know. I'm staying out of it.
I completely agree. Like, this seems like one of the games where we're going to be scratching our head at the end and saying, how did Houston win?
Or I could see us scratching our head and just going, how did we not bet Detroit? Like, of course they won by 20.
I would say I don't see Detroit winning by 7. That's the only like outcome I can't see. It's like either Houston shocks them or Detroit's like, oh, wait a minute, guys, we're really good at football. We're going to continue to be really good at football. So that's why I'm staying away. The volatile outcomes. Last up, Monday Night Football, Miami versus the Rams. I guess Dolphins versus Rams. I got to get better at doing nicknames and nicknames or city and city. And the hard part is I start with Miami, then I see LA, and I'm like, I can't say LA because it's very confusing. Anyways.
You just say LA Rams. It'll be fine. Okay.
Ken.
All right.
Ken, I got this. I've been doing this for years. I've been doing this for years now. The Rams are 2.5-point home favorites, and the total's 50.5. Now, this seems like a game on paper that should be so fun to watch, right? You got like high-powered offenses, lots of weapons, should be so good. But I'm taking the under because neither of these teams likes to run up the score and pass the ball the way we think they would. They want to get their running backs involved. They want to use kind of that Kyle Shanahan zone scheme and, get 6 and 7 yards of carry, milk the clock, settle for field goals. They are not overly aggressive until they are forced to be, and neither of these guys will force each other to be overly aggressive. So under 50.5, these just a letdown in terms of excitement, like a total of 50.5 should be a great Monday night game. But I could see this like 23-20. We saw 6 field goals.
Yep. I want to be wrong. I want this to be exciting. I want this to go over 50. But honestly, it's all because of Miami. I just don't. They've had like one game where the offenses looked like fine-tuned, and I know Tua's just coming back, but like he's just not getting everyone involved. Tyreek's not nearly having the year that we think. This offense is going through Achane and Mostert, and it's moving, which is nice because it wasn't even moving when Tua was out, but it's just not where it's been. And the Rams, I know it's been a funky couple weeks here. Puka looked great, and then he punches a dude, and maybe he just really needed that the rest of the week to help heal up that knee. But I mean, their offense, it has looked better, but it's still certainly missing something. It's not where it should be. And that game, I mean, that game went into overtime, and that really easily. I mean, I think they only had like a couple scores even before the half last week. So, I mean, I think that this 50.5 is like overinflated on these expectations that we put on this team that neither of them have really been hitting all year. So I think that's going to keep continuing. Also, Rams defense didn't look absolutely miserable last week, and that's new because it's been pretty bad.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. Their coverage unit has been much better than expected, and they actually had a pass rush, which is ridiculous because we said they lost Aaron Donald and they didn't have anything else. So, like I said, I'm with you. The Dolphins have just been one of the biggest disappointments this year, and I know the Rams are 4-4. I still I have to check their odds to make the playoffs because I would say they're not good. It just drives me crazy.
I love watching Cooper Kupp and Puka. They're one of my favorite wide receiver duos to watch. Their defense leaves something to be desired. Every once in a while, they get too run heavy. Kyren Williams, we were talking about it, is just he's a good football player. He's not an exceptional running back athlete, and you can just kind of tell. I don't know, a bunch of fantasy players are going to hate me for that because Kyren Williams is a god to some people. Andrew Call.
Dude, Kyren killing it, 22 carries, 69 yards. It's a usage thing on a team that just feeds their top running back. I want to see what Blake Corum could do. I'm not going to lie. I wish we could.
If they start losing some games, we will, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to be a nice 500 game.
Also, Kyren Williams is 5'9", 190 pounds. How is this guy not breaking?
He does such a phenomenal job of making a 1 yard rush 4, and it adds up. And I don't know how
that's what I mean. How is he not physically breaking down from being hit? That's what I want to know. I have Blake Corum. I've been waiting. I'm like, this guy has gotten a lot of touches, a lot of usage recently. At some point, he's got to break a leg or something.
It's the same thing. I texted our group chat because I want Connor to come on here and talk about Puka. I'm like, how does Puka keep getting open, keep making these splash? Puka gets so many 15 to 25 yard gains, and I don't get it. I don't think he's good at he's not fast or explosive enough to get separation, but he just does. Kyren Williams is he's not breaking off 80-yard touchdowns. He's not explosive like that, but he just, it's hey, I wanted you to get 5 and you got 7. Hey, I wanted you to get 3 and you got 6. It's all the time. I don't know.
You hear that? You come here for wisdom.
You
give
can
it
cut that part.
to school us, huh? No, it's all right.
Yeah.
You guys will know by the time.
A lot of people live in California, so we'll see.
That's true.
Yeah,
all right.
I know.